Hey guys, I wanted to go through and show a little bit of how I got back to Masters. I dropped down because I placed a little low. I had some decay happen as I was working on another account, working on some other stuff. And I figured I would make my way back to Masters and then do videos of each character while also doing guides of each of the characters I used to get back to Masters. So to start off, I am using Lucio. I recommended Lucio in the meta video as a hero that I thought was really good in this particular meta, and I still hold to that. I think that in general, he is a really, really strong hero against teams that just don't know how to do burst damage. So you're going to see me play him a little bit different than you'll see a lot of the higher rank Lucio players, and that's because I wanted to show a playstyle that's easy for everyone to emulate. So if you're looking at this playstyle, you might be like, oh, I've seen other people do so much crazier stuff, but here's the thing, this playstyle actually works in this rank, which is Masters, Grandmasters, and it also works in lower ranks as well because it's primarily about healing people. You don't focus too much on killing, and in fact, I kind of base this off of a playstyle I saw in Overwatch where someone was taking healers that could also do damage, and he was just not doing any damage on them. And he showed that he was winning. He literally took his accounts from really low rank all the way up to high rank without really needing to do anything. And it was kind of fascinating. He didn't focus on getting kills. He didn't focus on doing anything but healing. And I kind of recommend that for so many people that are watching these videos because you'd be surprised at how many fights in here I don't go crazy with kills, but I keep my team alive throughout the entire thing. So let's start off on what I recommend for the playstyle, and then I'll talk about the build as we get further on. So of course I'm focusing on like healing first rather than kills, even if you have the opportunity. But number two is, for the most part during fights, you're going to see green out, and then you're going to see swap to yellow whenever I'm using my amp it up ability to heal people pretty quickly, as the passive healing from your aura is not that great, but the movement speed of just that extra 10% is enough to catch up to the enemies. So you see in most fights, I keep green out for the most part, and I will use my trait to catch up to people, and then I only switch back to yellow when I'm doing the boost. So you can see all the boost healing, then we'll switch back to green. When the fights are at a standstill, I will sometimes leave it on yellow, just because if the fights are just standing still, the movement speed, that 10% movement speed is pointless, and you never know when you can save someone from an extra 60 or 70 healing onto everyone out there. When we're doing camps, I usually just kind of stand still, maybe use the wall ride a little bit, auto attack one or two minions that I need to kill, and I just stay on heals the entire time. I kind of get a gauge for how much health we're going to have by the end of this so that the globe will give us the rest of our health. So I don't usually use my E too often because I want to make sure that everyone stays topped off, but I want to save my mana. You're going to notice this game, I don't really ever back. I think I might back once, but I stay very mana efficient with my abilities, as I'm not wasting them all the time with sound waves, and I'm not using amp it up all the time. I'm only using it really when we need it. And you'll see we go for the channels. We get interrupted a few times. That happens. I do instantly move and then rechannel again whenever I'm about to get interrupted because it's just an easy way to keep this going. They keep using abilities on us, and it's just a really, really great way to keep the enemies kind of in a tough position. The great part about Lucio channeling is you're healing people whether or not you're getting interrupted, and whether or not you're channeling, you're still healing people. So even though they interrupt me a few times and I'm spending a lot of time channeling, I'm keeping everyone topped off. But you kind of see these fights, I switch to green during the fight, and then I switch back just to get the amp it up so that I can get that healing. Now let's talk about the builds a little bit. I really like Party Mix for this playstyle because you just get a really big healing zone or a really big mobility zone, and it's really valuable. As far as the level 4, I like to lower the cooldown of Supersonic. While I certainly don't use it as much as I would recommend using it, it's one of your best tools for catching people out of position because you can use it, slow someone for 75%, which is a huge amount, as well as you can recharge it faster by wall riding and auto attacking people, or at least in this case, this talent is just wall riding. Level 7, I pick reverse amp in a lot of situations, almost all of them. The only situations I don't like picking it up is against people that doing a lot of little damage is going to be a bad thing. For example, your heal procs something like 4 times a second, and when you use reverse amp, you deal damage something like 4 times a second. It's actually more than that. If it does 68 damage per second, we're doing sets of 6, it's hitting 10 times a second. So if reverse amp's hitting 10 times a second against a Genji, that means that he's going to deflect 10 times per second against you. And same idea with a Mal'Ganis that heals off the damage that he takes. At this level, Mal'Ganis can heal for 20 health per hit that he takes, and you're going to be doing 6 damage per hit. Meaning that he's going to be healing off of the damage you're doing with reverse amp. So in any situations like that, you want to try to avoid reverse amp, as you could actually be benefiting the enemies. So that's the reasons that I don't take that. When I don't take it, I take Boombox. Boombox is actually a really good talent, and I do pick it sometimes even if reverse amp is good, just because I like the ability to have vision in certain areas. I also like the ability to heal when fights get really spread out. For example, if you have a back line that you want to throw a Boombox into and a front line that's going to be diving into the enemies, you can throw the Boombox into the back line and you can dive in with your team, heal them up, and the Boombox will make sure that enemy divers won't kill your back line. As far as level 10s, I almost always go Sound Barrier. I think Taunt is the only exception on where I would go High Five. So that they taunt, you use High Five to give them Unstoppable, and then they're perfectly fine. Its cooldown is low enough that you can use it every time that Taunt is up on the same target, but it's also like a short enough cooldown on other people. You can still save the rest of your team or at least heal them. But Sound Barrier for me is just way too good to pass up. It kind of fits the one thing that Lucio doesn't really have. Lucio has amazing sustained healing, but terrible anti-burst healing. So if you do use Lucio as a AoE healer that's going to be doing sustained healing, you need to have that anti-burst, and that's the best anti-burst. You just walk up, press your ult, and everyone's up. So these are pretty good fights for a team. You can see I give my team movement speed whenever we're chasing things. It's a great way to catch up to people. You can also activate, so this is one of my favorite tricks. And I know it seems like it's kind of a bad sound barrier, but this is actually one of my favorite tricks to do on Lucio. When you are chasing and diving really far into their backline, popping sound barrier and then amp it up is a great way to where you don't need to worry about the damage that your team takes. So your team won't need healing because they've got these giant shields on them. And then at the same time, you're going to be slowing the enemies and speeding up your team. It's a really easy way to charge in and get a kill. Chaotic, for example, is a Grandmaster player that we just rolled right up as if they were a really low-ranked player. Then you saw I walked on the wall so I could instantly slow him for 75%. We get a second kill. So while it seemed like a really bad time to use Sound Barrier, it's actually something that I do very often, and it allows your team to really roll over enemy teams very, very quickly when they're not expecting it. Out of nowhere, they have a whole team of 5 people with a 2,000 health shield charging at them while they're all getting slowed for, what, 20%, and the entire team's getting sped up by 30%. So they're just rolling through your team super fast, slowing all of you, increasing their speed, and they all have a giant shield that you don't want to attack. And all at the same time, you're getting slowed by 75%, you're getting dropped by this, dropped by that, and there's just nothing you can do about it. So it's one of my favorite things. If you ever have all 5 of your members charging in on like 3 members of the enemy's team, that's your playmaking. That's how you take Lucio from going from just a basic healer that's just a heal bot, AoE heal bot, to someone who's making plays for your team. Now, don't do this when your team's not following, but when you have 5 people all charging in on 3 of them, pop that movement speed, pop that sound barrier, get your team rolling in the middle of their team. It's a really, really powerful engage. One of my favorite things to do on Lucio. When you're just catching people out of position, really the best way is just a quick push off. In that case, I was a little too late on the sound barrier, but right here, I could go up and push off. I just want to keep my team alive. So you can see when I'm trying to get my team out, here's the trick that I kind of messed up on. If your team is running away, you should always stay on speed. Even if your team complains and they go, oh, if I had a heal on me, I would have been fine. You should always be on speed, unless your team is getting any sort of CC. If your team is getting hit by any sort of CC, you should sit on heals, and that's where I made the mistake. I could have saved that Leoric. Because he was getting hit by a CC. So if your team's ever getting hit by CC, always use your heals. So right here we threw a little bit, and this happens. I actually have this really dumb rule that I say every team throws 3 times in this rank. But do you see how I'm giving retreat pings? I'm telling my team, we don't actually want to fight this. Like, we don't want to throw any further than we've thrown. One boss, we can clear up for free. That's all fine. We have a Jaina. We have a Greymane. We can clear up a boss. I'm not worried about the boss. They don't get a curse, so I'm not worried about that either. But if Anub'arak charges in and dies, if Jaina charges in and dies, then we're going to have trouble. So that's essentially how I look at a lot of these so we don't throw harder. Because that's the biggest way to lose, especially on like Lucio. Because all it takes is one awkward team fight for the enemy, and you can send your whole team flying into their team and get a lot of kills. A lot of people recommend Lucio for like full dive comps, and while he's good for dive comps, if like everyone's in a dive comp because of what I showed you, you don't necessarily need to do that. You can kind of just chill out. And I guess I was typing there? I'm not really sure. Let's talk about the rest of the build. I do like all together in this particular build. Yes, you could go casters if you're trying to interrupt things from the enemy. Yes, you could go slip if you want to be getting extra armor. But overall, I really like all together. This allows you to stay in the healing form, and then you get movement speed for each person. So the great part about this is if you are staying in healing, you can keep your team up throughout a lot of fights. The other thing that I want to mention is sound barriers earlier than later is better, but in some cases you just have to do it when you have to do it. So unfortunately, you can see I stay in movement speed this entire fight. I get silence here. That's actually an amazing arrow from that Sylvanas. An amazing thing, and I get 100 to 0'd. So overall, great job on my team. Great job on the enemy team for playing that out, but great job on my team for turning this into a victory. But did you kind of see how I stayed in green form, and then I was waiting until we got low before I used that? I mean, silence kind of sucks for that, but no, overall, I think the enemy team played that out super well. Now, Lucio's biggest power spike's at 16. Almost everyone knows this. But I just love that I get all this movement speed in team fights now. Like, you essentially are moving at mount speed, even in open areas. So you already move faster when you're wall riding. Or I guess you don't. I guess you have to take the level 1 talent if you want to move faster while wall riding. But now you actually move really fast. If I hit 4 people, or at least 3 people, with my with this, I'm at half of a mount speed, and I can get in and out of the fights really easy. So right here, I should be switching to green. Okay, I am switching to green. I pop my ult, save the Anub'arak, then I switch back to heals, heal up everyone, and now I'm going to switch back to green to get my team back in there, and I will be using my trait to slow her down, and I'll chase her down, knock her into my team, and then just stick with my team. I'm sticking on movement speed, even though I got really low there, because I already know how much damage Sylvanas can do, and I don't need to worry about that at all. In this case, the Leoric does say that he's got it, so I head down with my team. At this level, all 3 of these talents are pretty good, but if you do have even 1 or 2 bruisers, or even a tank and a bruiser, whatever this is pronounced, which no one really knows, I'm sure someone who's Brazilian or whatever could tell me right away. But yeah, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. This is an amazing talent, and it makes it to where you can just out-heal almost all the damage enemies are doing. In this case, that guy got blown up real fast. Up to frequency is kind of fun. It's entertaining, but my problem with this talent is you burn your mana real fast, and up to 11, you can extend the duration. I think this is a pretty cool talent, but again, it's not as much burst healing. It just makes it to where you get overall more healing. So I just love this talent. Burst healing, not a lot of downsides, really almost no downsides, and it's just an amazing talent. Level 20, there's a lot of talents you can pick as well. Bossa Nova if the enemies have a lot of burst. And I like House Party if they just have sustained damage. So against a lot of poke-heavy teams, House Party is amazing. And against burst, we go Bossa Nova. I will go Summer Anthem against things like Malthael, who's using Last Rites, because then that's really predictable and you can save people. My ult was way too far to save that Greymane. And best I could do is knock away someone, but in general, we just got destroyed there. So I likely could have saved the gray main while also knocking back one or two people. In general, we probably just shouldn't have gone in. You can see I called for a retreat before that fight even happened because we were already split, and I didn't like that fight in general. So that's our second throw for this game. And again, every team does 3 throws in Masters. I don't know what it is. It's just a thing. So when I was carrying back to Masters, I just needed to keep that in mind and do my best to try to prevent as many throws as possible and make sure that our throws are earlier than later, because the later you throw in this, the longer the respawn times are and the worse it is. In this case, it would be best to give this as well, but this is actually a pretty good fight. We have all of our ultimate abilities ready, and the enemies also are... they're going to be closer to our fountain, so this is actually a great fight for us if we want to take it. Neither enemy has a talent tier advantage, but we have all of our ults. So you can see I switch to green as we start getting ready for the fight. He goes in, I use green, I ult, and do you see how I moved to the side a little bit so I didn't get hit by the silence, which would have interrupted my ult? That is going to be good enough to where I'll be able to keep him alive, but what would be perfect for me right now is to see if I could interrupt this and then go back and heal my team. But because I did get that extra range on my heal, I could actually still heal my team. So I give a giant shield over to Leoric right now, and then I go and I heal him, and I'm able to keep him up long enough to where the silence ends. He stays alive, and this is a free fight for our team. So fighting in clustered areas as Lucio is actually really good for you because you can keep your team alive because your team's all very close to each other, and it's pretty easy to just drop people. Right here, there's no way I catch this guy. He just hops over the wall, but it did at least burn his hop, and it looks like my team wants to kill him anyways, which I don't think we will be able to. I don't know where he is. We could get a keep here, and we can finish off the game. So in this particular game, would I take House Party? Probably not. Their damage is very bursty. I think I would take either Summer Anthem or Bossa Nova. Most likely Bossa Nova. But it looks like we won't really need that. Yeah, Bossa Nova for their team comp. And that's how I would play out Lucio in a game like this. He's a great healer. Do you see I focused on healing? I didn't chase down enemies. I didn't try to get sneaky kills. I was just there for the slows. I was just there for the knockbacks. I was there for the heals, and I focused primarily on heals. I did, when my team had some good opportunities, I did jump in with my team, pop some really cool things for charging in, and that's overall how I play Lucio. Thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to throw any extra Lucio tips down below, and also feel free to check out any of my other videos. I should be continuing on this series with all of the other heroes I use to get back to Masters, as well as guides on what I recommend for those heroes.